All the way over. Oh, I think that's. Do that. They didn't do that already. You got the junior high and you got high schools, and now they have like promotion. Yeah. The fun of this. Yeah. Everybody's. Everybody's.
You like it? So good. We'll be
My
fair.
granddaughters will love them.
You're looking better.
Yeah, it's more works. Would you recommend we get for that's on the spot? I would ask, yeah, and just say, kind of give them maybe a demo. And but I like it. JJ doesn't like it though. He likes a big screen. I had a 16-inch. I'm afraid so you can see like one word at a time. Oh, you have some good lenses on that. No. Worse. The only thing that looks nice about that though is it looks a lot lighter. And I'm like, that's. Yeah, it is a lot lighter than carry and keep in mind, this is an old one. This is one of the original babies. Oh, is it?
Recording in progress.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
It is 11:48 and I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Operations Oversight Committee. Do we need to do a roll call?
Yes.
Please do.
Okay, this meeting is being conducted virtually and in person, so I will do a roll call of the trustees to confirm attendance. Trustees Oakham and Greenwood will not be joining us today. Mr. Knox?
Here.
Mr. Santos?
Here.
Ms. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez?
Yeah.
Mr. Green?
Present.
Mr. Robbins?
I'm here.
Mr. Kehoe?
Present.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Chair Bernstein?
I'm here.
Staff participating in the meeting include CEO Santos Crimens, Deputy CEO Louis Lugo, AEOs JJ Popowich and Laura Guglielmo, Chief Counsel Stephen Rice. Other staff participating include Vanessa Gonzalez, Victor Tafoya, and Cassandra Smith. Trustees, please use the raise your hand Zoom option to be placed in queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute your mics until you are ready to speak, and we may now proceed with the agenda.
Thank you. We're on to item 2 regarding the procedure for AB 2449, but today we've had no 2449 requests. So we move to item 3, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of May 3rd, 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Mr. Sanchez, how would you like to log your vote?
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you very much, Terry. We're on to item 4, public comment. I'm not aware of any requests from the public. Has any come in?
I don't have anything.
Thank you. We are on to item 5, the non-consent items. We have item A, revised and restated post-retirement employment policy. And I believe that we will be having a brief presentation.
You can go ahead.
Bernstein, may I begin?
Yes.
Chairperson, trustees, I've asked our intern, Nare Hartunian, to sit up here with me. She did a survey of all the 37 Act systems, as well as CalPERS and CalSTRS, and assisted in a number of other ways in doing a lot of the work that led to the revised policy and the memo that you have. This item presents a proposed overall restatement of LACERA's post-retirement employment policy. It's been almost three years since the original policy was approved by the board, so this review is timely. In addition, internal audit issued a report last year on LACERA's rehired retiree program, and the revised policy is intended to address the audit findings that internal audit made. It's important to clarify at the offset that this policy only relates to retirees who perform services for LACERA. It does not relate to LACERA's oversight role for the county's use of retirees. LACERA has a responsibility under PEPRA to ensure that all returning retirees and any employer, such as the county that hires them, comply with the
What's
statutory
the password here? Do you know the Wi-Fi?
If you are on Zoom, we welcome you, but if you could mute if you're not speaking, that would be great.
So LACERA has a responsibility to ensure that all retirees and the employers that hire them, including the county, comply with the statutory requirements of CERL and PEPRA. After the LACERA policy is approved by the board, staff will then look at preparing a policy relating to retirees providing services to other employers. And we will also work with the county. And in fact, I have already been in touch with county council and have a meeting set up starting tomorrow to begin to talk about the issues that relate to the county. But this policy only relates to LACERA's use of retirees. And so we're trying to come up with a policy structure that meets LACERA's needs, which are going to be as a organization of 450 or so employees is different from what other participating employers in our system may require. CERL and PEPRA provide that retirees may only be rehired by a public employer in their system for an emergency to prevent stoppage of public business, or if they have skills needed to perform work of limited duration. So two situations: emergency circumstances to prevent stoppage of business, or separate category, skills needed to perform work of limited duration. Limited duration is not defined. Unfortunately, in the statute, that's left to interpretation. However, the statutes are specific that the work may not exceed 960 hours in a single fiscal year. The statutes also contain many other requirements that are addressed in the policy. If work is performed in violation of the 960 hours, the limited duration requirement, or any of the other requirements, PEPRA states that the retiree may face reinstatement from retirement or loss or interruption of retirement benefits. And that's a consequence that LACERA, as the administrator for the fund, is responsible for assessing and administering and overseeing. The exact method of administering and enforcing the statute is not spelled out, so the proposed policy before the committee today is how staff suggests that we approach the issue to ensure legal compliance with respect to the use of retirees by this organization. In August 2020, internal audit issued a report on LACERA's rehired retiree program. The audit made 3 findings, and the proposed policy addresses all of them. First, internal audit found that there was a lack of ensuring compliance with the administration of the program in terms of the completeness, detail, and maintenance of documents and oversight of retirees once rehired. The proposed policy addresses this finding by clarifying and tightening the process to request and approve appointment or renewal of a retiree. It also tightens up record keeping and it provides guidance for monitoring of rehired retirees. In addition, the request forms require more detail about the work the retiree is being brought back to perform and the transition of the work to permanent staff, which really is the goal. We want the work of the organization to be performed by permanent staff. Sometimes that's not possible, and this is an escape valve, really, when that isn't possible. But that's what it is. It's an exception to the norm, which is that work is to be performed by permanent staff. So the idea is to ensure transition of work to permanent staff. All returning retirees are also required under this policy to sign an enhanced form that requires them to initial their understanding of the requirements of their return to work as retirees, still receiving their benefits, as well as the consequence of violating those requirements. New forms are also proposed for retirees performing services under a bona fide independent contract. That is not regulated by PEPRA. So retirees who are employees of vendors who are performing services for LACERA, but through their employment with a bona fide independent contractor are not regulated. But we need to make sure that any retirees working in that setting are in fact working under a bona fide independent contract, and it's not a workaround around the statutory requirements that applies to rehirees who are actually employed by LACERA. So we have some new forms that deal with that, and that was not previously addressed in the policy. This is also, by the way, just as a preview, this issue of bona fide independent contractors is an issue of interest to the county, and that's actually where County Council and are starting tomorrow in our discussions about what the county policy might look like. Second, internal audit found that there were instances of non-compliance with the 960-hour limit. The new policy provides a more detailed monitoring process and includes a section on enforcement for those who violate the limit or any other requirement of the program. The responsibility for compliance with the 960 hours falls both on the organization. So the policy puts the responsibility on the organization, on LACERA, to make sure that it's collecting information as a retiree's employment is progressing through the fiscal year of where they are against the 960, and then meeting with the retiree to discuss that and have good communication about the status of the work and the wrap up of their work during the fiscal year, during the 960-hour maximum time permitted. But it's also the responsibility of the retiree. And so this policy also makes it clear that the retiree has some ownership of that issue. And this dual responsibility is addressed in the policy to meet the internal audit finding and also to ensure compliance. The third finding that internal audit made was a lack of specific definition of PEPRA's limited duration requirement, and the current policy did not attempt to define it. But the proposed policy does, and it defines limited duration to be 2 one-year periods that may be approved by management, and 2 additional one-year periods that may be approved by the board at the request of the executive office for exceptional circumstances. And this means a maximum of 48 months that a retiree may come back to LACERA and perform services. And the policy judgment that lies behind that and the recommendation that we're making to this committee and then to the board as the ultimate policy setters, of course, is that that's sufficient time to come up with a transition plan to address the needs of that we may have to fill in gaps that permanent staff can't handle and transition the work to permanent staff. This definition is generally in line with CalPERS proposed definition that is in a regulation that CalPERS has approved and is now before the State Office of Administrative Laws for processing. That process with OAL has not yet been completed, but CalPERS has acted, and they've made their decision as what they want their regulation to look like, which is also a 2+2 model. There are only a few 37 Act systems that have really tackled this issue. And I give 4 examples of that in the memo. Oser, San Bernardino, Santa Barbara, Sacramento are systems that have really tried to tackle this issue. Now, each one of them have done it in different ways. Some less than what I'm proposing, some allow for a continuation beyond 48 months or beyond, say, 36 months, if that's the base period in another system's policy, but with board involvement. The Executive Office, Internal Audit, and other divisions provided input into the proposed policy. It's been a work in process for over 6 months now. It's an important policy. It's an important compliance issue. There is tax compliance risk for LACERA. There is risk to employees' pensions, and there's headline risk if we don't properly ensure compliance with this PEPRA statute. This provision in PEPRA was what is referred to as core PEPRA, because it was intended to address what was a major issue at the time PEPRA was passed, which was double dipping. And this was the vehicle that the governor came up with and then was approved by the legislature to prevent double dipping, while recognizing that there is a legitimate need for retirees to come back to perform work of limited duration or in an emergency within the 960-hour limit to perform needed public services. Staff requests that the committee recommend the policy to the Board of Retirement for approval. There's a lot of other things in the policy, but I wanted to structure this argument in terms of the internal audit report, which really flagged the major issues. There are a lot of other details, but I think we've covered the main concepts that are addressed in the new policy. So I'm happy to stand for questions at this point.
Thank you. I have a few people in queue, and if anyone else wishes to ask questions, please feel free to join the queue. Mr. Kehoe and then Mr. Santos.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation and the hard work that it took to put this together. I voiced this at the audit committee, and I'll voice it again, that I agree with the 960 hours issue is a major issue for us as a tax issue. Is that I know that we're tackling that under the Insurance Legislative Benefits Committee with our recommendation to go to SACRS and have some remedies. What I disagree with is our definition of limited duration and how that applies, and how we could make these blanket statements or blanket determinations of what that is. First of all, it's completely undefined. We don't know, is the limited duration talking about the 960 hours? Is it talking about a time frame? Is it talking about months, weeks, years? It doesn't go into that. It doesn't define it. And I do not think that the audit committee or that our internal audit should define what that is. And to say that we have an unsatisfactory failing grade on that, I just fundamentally disagree with, because it was a determination by staff in the audit committee on what that limited duration is. And I think what we're doing right now is exactly what needed to be done before those findings were made, which is that our board needs to discuss it and talk about it. And once again, it's undefined. We don't know if the limited duration is talking about time frame or if it's talking about weeks, months, years, etc. So on that note, looking at this policy specifically as it relates to 6.1.2. So in the policy, it addresses limited duration of 6.1.2, which is discussing our limitation, which is 2 years for the CEO. And then after 2 years, the CEO would then bring that to our board for adoption. And we're tying our own hands as a board with this policy, and tying the future hands of future boards with this policy if we limit it to 2 additional years for this board. I agree with most of the elements of this, and I think I have a very simple fix, which is that everything beginning with the second paragraph on 6.1.2, everything from provided on be completely stricken and removed. So everything from provided on gets stricken and removed. That, I believe, addresses the concerns where we're at, which would essentially, what that does is that makes limited duration being something that the executive office keeps for 2 fiscal years. And then anything beyond that is brought to the Board of Retirement for determination on an annual basis. That places that is plenty of steps to get to. Not only does the executive office need to make the decision to bring it to the board, but then it needs to come to the board needs to hear it, and the board needs to approve it. And then we can continue to approve it depending upon where that falls in. It puts pressure on the staff to make sure that for appropriate positions that we're replacing, that we're having a succession plan in place. And but it allows flexibility for this board and for the staff to continue on for personnel that have specific needs or specific things. There's certain elements within our organization, such as legacy systems, where we're not going to pass that training on, but it's somebody that we might have to be able to recall and to have come in and fix a certain problem and then move on. And if we use them based on this policy, if we use them for 20 hours, 4 years in a row, then we can't use them anymore. And that's silly to me. If we're talking about 20 hours and we're talking about a thing, to me, that's not a violation of limited duration. So I don't think it's a good idea for our board to tie our hands. I don't think it's a good idea for us to tie the hands of staff. I think what we do is we resolve it that way. It puts plenty of stopgaps, plenty of pressures. There's not going to be widespread abuse of it where half of our workforce is coming back on it. And at the end of the day, we got to look at the spirit of the law on this. The spirit of the law was to stop double dipping, was to stop people retiring and then getting another job and making the same amount of salary. And that's not happening simply because of the 960 hours limitation. So that's resolved in that element there. So my recommendation, and I'll make this well, I can't make a motion on the committee, but I will urge the committee to adopt just making that changes under 6.1.2, second paragraph, from provided on, removing that, and providing our board the ability to continue on rehires as long as is appropriate for our board.
Just to move things along, I'll make Mr. Pia's recommendation a motion if somebody wants to second it. Are non-committee members allowed to make motions or second them?
No.
second.
Okay.
I second.
Normally I would welcome it, but okay. So I'm going to take Mr. Santos as the second, and I have Mr. Santos in the queue.
Great, thank you very much.
Going to agree with Mr. Keyhole, but the motion has been made, so I'm full support with the modification. Well, my question is to the intern. So what was your role here in this project?
Okay. Hey, everyone. My role was I drafted a memorandum for Mr. Rice, essentially researching all the SERL systems, so the 19 other systems, and CalPERS and CalSTRS basically researching their limited duration policies and whatever remedies they have if retirees do go over. So the way I was interpreting it was PEPRA does separate 960 hours and limited duration into 2 different categories. Some of the SERL systems do merge them and others don't. So through my research, I was providing my recommendations as to how we should move forward with our policy and present it to you.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Good. So great experience, huh? Good for you. Thank you. No further comments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Santos. I have Mr. Kryman in the queue.
Yes, I just wanted to thank you for your work on this. We really needed a fresh pair of eyes, quite frankly, to look at it. I would, the concept of the exceptional circumstances is kind of important for us from a policy standpoint, as well as, I believe, as a policy standpoint, as well as an operational standpoint. So if you don't mind, can I offer some substitute language that you may want to consider as opposed to striking? Is that okay with you?
You can offer anything.
Yeah. Okay, well, let me suggest that in that same paragraph where it says provided that the board, my preference would be to substitute will not to may approve additional work beyond the 2 additional 1 fiscal year increments due to exceptional circumstances. And then the sentence, the following sentence just kind of defines what those exceptional circumstances are. That really gives us, in terms of a administrative standpoint, what are those elements that we need to hit in order for us to make a recommendation or actually provide you with the information that you need so that you can move forward with a go or no go decision in the future.
Okay, so I'm slightly confused.
So after provided that the board strike will not, insert may approve additional work beyond 2 additional 1 fiscal year increments due to exceptional circumstances.
okay.
And then the sentence below defines what that exceptional circumstance information we would be presenting to the boards to justify the.
So the exceptional circumstances requires an explanation for the executive officer that needs to support the retired, continued employment,
Correct.
transition of knowledge, and that. I mean, I don't see an issue with that. You're going to do it anyways,
Yes.
with or without it being in the policy. So I don't see an issue.
Then I'll accept that
I
amendment.
may do it. I don't know about the chair if I may, the next CEO.
I'll accept that amendment to the motion. Mr. Santos, will you accept it as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, that is it. Thank you.
Mr. Green, you're up.
I'm just, I'm just asking about stronger language. Has the authority to approve additional work in lieu of may is, there's ambiguity.
Yeah.
Has the authority to approve additional work beyond the 2 additional. I think I defer to council. That's a little more definitive than may.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it's less ambiguous. Mr. Rice, I don't know if you have any.
Yeah, which may are you looking at, trustee Green?
You would
It was
insert
a May that Santos said.
in
you
the
would
very
insert
first-
it after will, where it says will not. Provided that the board will not. I inserted may and.
Oh, you okay.
And
Six point one point two.
Yes,
has the authority.
I that's fine.
Mr. Santos, are you okay with it?
Yes, sure. Is the interim okay?
Oh, I'm fine, 100%.
If we can get one more amendment, I think this may be the most in my tenure on the board. Any other, I don't see anyone else in queue.
Chair Bernstein, may I have?
Mr. Rice, of course.
Thank you. Just wanted to address one issue, and Nare already said this, but it is true that the best interpretation, in fact, I think the only interpretation of PEPRA is that limited duration means something else, and it is undefined in the statute. Trustee Keto is absolutely correct about that. Limited duration is not defined, but limited duration is a separate concept from the 960 hours. They're in separate sections. The limited duration requirement is the prerequisite for returning to work at all. And then in the next subsection, it quantifies, if you meet that threshold, how much can you work? So they're different. They are different concepts. That's why we have a different, we treat them differently and give them separate, each their own meaning.
Do we have anything in the legislative history?
Yes, yes, we have reviewed the legislative history on this, and there was a lot of controversy at the time this legislation was working its way through the system about a lot of things in PEPRA, including this. Limited duration was intentionally left undefined so that it could be worked out based on local needs. So that concept that Chakio Trustee Keough, Trustee Santos, others have mentioned at the audit committee and here is correct. There is a recognition of some flexibility there, but it does mean something. And it is supposed to help in constraining the double dipping. And I don't object to the proposal in terms of providing legal advice to you and being sensitive to compliance. I don't object to the solution that is the subject of the motion. I do think it would be better to have more constraints and force management to work within a defined time period for limited duration to meet the needs with permanent staff. But again, that's not within my pay grade. That's for you. That's for you and for the CEO. So you have proposed a solution there that I think doesn't expose the association to tax risk or compliance risk. So I from a legal point of view, I'm okay with the solution that's been proposed. But I think it is important to recognize that we're talking about two different things here: limited duration and 960 hours.
I'm sorry, may
You may.
I lost you somewhere. Are you agreeing with the CEO's additional language, or you agreeing with the original proposal?
I'm agreeing with the concept that was driving Trustee Keough and the motion maker and seconder on the committee, and I'm agreeing with CEO Kryman's suggestion to keep the exceptional circumstances in the motion, because that gives some definition around and some criteria that will apply to what the case the CEO has to make to the board when requesting something beyond the initial 2 years.
Thank you.
I appreciate the input. I'm low-key disappointed you didn't have another amendment to offer, but thank you very much, Mr. Lugo.
Yeah, thank you, Committee Chair Bernstein, committee members. I don't want to belabor the point, but from an operational perspective, I think the suggestion that Trustee Kehoe made allows us to keep those operational concerns front and center as it relates to transfer of knowledge, succession planning, and making sure that the CEO is able to craft a justifiable statement to the board in terms of extending those situations. Because again, that was when we had the internal meetings, that's certainly our biggest concern, is making sure that there's continuity once someone does retire and we have that proper transfer of knowledge, and making sure that we do have programs in place to properly succession plan and not have significant reliance and run the risk of, when someone leaves, it's like, where does the vacuum, who steps in? So I think the adjustments and the modifications to the language that was made certainly would meet our needs. And also the seasonality aspect. I know for March Madness, we talk about the seasonality of that, and that would also allow some flexibility there.
Thank you. We seem to have reached a point of consensus. I don't see anyone else in the queue. So Terry, can we take a vote?
Mr. Francis, yes?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you both for your work, everyone for work and for the input. And we shall now move on to the Board of Retirement. We're now on to item 6, report. Louis, you have a LACERA operations briefing for us?
Yep, I have a short briefing, Committee Chair Bernstein.
Sure.
If I want to introduce first Sami Vong. So as I talked about, Mr. Kryman talked about the transition within our information security office. So we currently have 2 contracted employees, and we're also looking at onboarding an additional 3 in the next couple of weeks, as well as filling our permanent information security officer role. But I want to introduce Sami Vong to the committee and allow him to provide some insight into his background and what he's going to do in terms of his interim role within information security.
Great. Good afternoon, Chair Bernstein and members of the committee. So my name is Sami Vong, and I joined LACERA 4.5 years ago as part of the internal audit group. Previously, I worked as an IT auditor for both Ticketmaster Live Nation as well as the California State University system. So over the last 3 years, I've actually been overseeing our infrastructure side of our IT operations. With the change is about 3 years ago when COVID hit, things like Office did ask me to step in. So prior to jumping over to information security, I oversaw our service desks, network engineering, telecommunications audiovisual team, as well as our production support team in the mainframe side. So I was onboarded or serving this role when Bob Slotfeld, our outgoing CISO, interim CISO, left. So I worked with Bob almost daily to help transition to the separation of the information security team from some of the roles that the engineering team served before we had our own separate ISO office. So with that being said, there's pretty much between the engineering and the information security team, we work hand in hand daily to push out the initiatives from the information security office. So I think it was a natural progression that I kind of oversee the role as well while we will look for that permanent ISO role. With that being said, so my security background for over the last 10 years, as I mentioned, Ticketmaster Live Nation, it is the largest ticketing platform organization in the world, but it's actually by and large a software engineering house. So we developed software in-house, so very familiar with that process of internally developing software in terms of being a publicly traded company and ensuring that we meet all compliance requirements and information security around all of that as it relates to customers and employees. For the California State University system, I was one of the internal auditors that worked on site at each of the campuses. So if you can imagine, a college university is like a small city. It has students, it has housing, it has PII, PCI, all manners of compliance needs that me and my team helped work with the presidents of each university to ensure that they met those needs. So just a little bit of background on myself as well, and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Vong. Oh, sorry, Committee Chair.
I don't have any questions. Just thank you for the introduction and for the opportunity. We look forward to having you work with us.
And just a couple other operational updates. First, certainly extend our apologies to trustees relating to PrimeGov. One meeting, we will be meeting with the leadership, the vendor leadership, to find out the causes of the slowness and the performance. Unacceptable. It won't happen again. And certainly we're going to relay those sentiments to the leadership of the platform, the vendor platform. So that meeting will happen right away. So again, we apologize for the disruption.
Will it be ready by this week?
Sure. Well, exactly. That's why we're meeting right. Yeah, it's up right now, but it's still unacceptable to have that happen in the midst of our board meeting.
As a Writers Guild member, I'm not sure that I'm allowed to craft writing currently, but I'll risk it, and you can tell them that it would appear that PrimeGov is not ready for prime time.
Yes.
I will share that. The other item, brought this up a couple of months ago, and I just want to extend appreciation to JJ and Louis Gittins. So if you recall, the FAC, the final average salary compensation, we've been working with the auditor controller. There's been ongoing biweekly meetings. We have, and also Kathy, extend my appreciation for Kathy Delano and her team. By the end of July, so July 31st, we have a commitment that most of our embedded pay codes, which allow us to send out annual benefit statements to PEPR members, so your Plan G, as well as Safety Plan C members, as well as have those members run benefit estimates on LACERA. So by the end of July, we have a commitment that most of those issues will be resolved. We have another lag period of getting some historical compensation data, but in the next couple of months or so, we'll be excited to report back that we'll be able to issue not only where members can run benefit estimates on LACERA, and then our next project will be to start revising and retooling the annual benefit statements to PEPR members. So this is a big project that's been underway. It's been reported on the briefing, but we're happy to see the level of progress and collaboration with the auditor controller to get this project moving. It's been well overdue. And with that concludes my briefing.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions?
Just to say, welcome aboard. Impressive credentials.
Thank you very much.
Do a good job.
We are on to report B, mass communication process, online and email. JJ, take it away.
Thank you very much, Chair Bernstein. I'm going to make this brief. We put together, we've ramped up the amount of communication that we do. We have the new website. We're doing new brochures all of the time. We're doing more email mass communications than we've ever done in the past. And so we wanted to give you some insight into how this process works, how these pieces of communication are put together. And so that's what's here in the presentation. So if we can go to the next slide. I don't see. Yeah, there we go. This just gives you an idea. We have the online, which is our website, and my LACERA, print, video, and email. Let's go to the next slide, please. It's an ongoing process. There's new content creation, there's content maintenance, and there's also all of the other things that I've already mentioned. So let's move on. One more. So this is, and we broke it down into different buckets of types of communication that we do, but this is a good representation. I'm not going to go through each of them. Each of them are there for you to look at. But essentially, there's always a kickoff meeting where we get business partners together, whoever's requested the change. That's where we start to decide, what is going to be changed? What are we looking for? What is the goal? Then there's a subject matter expert or experts assigned to that project to work with the communications team. And so they look at the content, help develop the content, proof the content that the writers put together. After that, there are various stages of review that go through the process. So the subject matter expert reviews what's put together. In this particular case, if it's online, usually a PDF version of the web page is generated and that's sent out. So it starts with internally in communications with the creative coordinators, verifying that the goal of the project has been met. And once they're satisfied with it, the business partner weighs in on it. The chief of communications weighs in on it. And then ultimately it goes to the executive office where we look at it and give it a final approval before it gets posted. And so this goes on, this process, if we go to the next slide, this process goes on for the print, and let's go to the next slide, for our video as well. And, throughout this, there's comments that go back and forth and changes that are made. Sometimes those changes can be extensive. I will give you an example. This particular presentation had 14 revisions before we got here to make sure that everybody was satisfied with it. And, we wanted to make sure that we presented the information to you appropriately. And so if you go to the final one, the email is, let's go to the next slide, one more slide. The email is a little more involved. We send out test emails as well. And so they send out test emails. We have different email accounts on different providers. And so those emails go out because not only are we verifying all of the content and information that we're presenting, but we're also trying to verify what it's going to look like. And believe it or not, depending on who your email content provider is, it could look differently. So sometimes you'll see all the images will come out right, and sometimes they won't come out right. And then also, I'll share this as well to keep in mind that individual users have individual settings. So some users have settings that don't download images automatically. So sometimes the images don't download. So we need to make sure that the information works and comes across appropriately, and we have the right instructions to members appropriately. So that, if they're one of those that I just mentioned that don't have the images download, you can click here and you can see what the images are. And so it's a very involved process. We try and do it as quickly as possible. But I just wanted to give you some insight into how that process worked. And if you have any questions or anything, I'll be happy to answer.
I have a quick question.
Sure. Yes, sir.
I'll just call it myself.
No, other vice chair. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So just looking at the media outlets page, this is fantastic, by the way. Thank you. I was so thoughtful. Are we still considering having a social media presence?
Yes, we are.
Okay. How is that going? Is this the right time to ask? Happy to ask later. Would we hear back about that later at some point?
We have a draft plan. We're looking at, expanding that as soon as we get some resources that have that type of experience in the background. So we will be looking for a new senior writer. And one of the things that's included in that senior writer is that they have or we're hoping to find somebody that has some social media experience. It's a little different animal, so to speak. You know, it's a different form of writing. So, and then we also will be looking in the near future for a public information officer who will probably be the way we're looking at it right now under the chief of communications, be responsible for most of the social media. So it's coming.
That's great. Thank you.
So we're gonna be in TikTok? Don't have to answer that.
I don't know about that.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, next item is new retirement counseling. Ms. Gonzalez.
So if I could just say one thing before they get started, if I may.
Please.
This was entirely their initiative. They being Vanessa and Victor and the member service center staff. So they put it all together, came to me and showed me the final product and what they were planning on doing. And I'm just super pleased at the initiative. So thank you. So with that, take it over. Oh, it's
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. I would like to share with you before I get started in sharing these beautiful folders with you. I just want to thank a couple of people. I would like to thank Cynthia and the communications division. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. They're amazing. I also would like to thank Jonathan Tran. He's actually a retirement benefits specialist in the outreach division who created the QR code that you will see in back of my business card. And I'll explain that in a little bit. And also I would like to thank Victor. I haven't had the chance to properly thank him. Mr. Tafoya is a retired deputy from Utah. So his perspective of what our safety members would need and want to have a nice, smooth transition in retirement was very helpful to me. You have in front of you empty folders. They did bring 3 samples of the folders actually stuffed with pertinent information.
Actually, I don't know that everyone knows. If you look behind you, there are gifts waiting.
Yes, I apologize. I should have asked if
In
everybody had
lovely,
their folders.
cheerful red, blue, and green.
Yes.
I don't see my check here.
You don't see your check. So let me give you a little history. So when I started in the outreach division, we didn't have folders. So I said, we need to give our members something that they can put all their information so it looks nice and clean. And what I didn't realize is what these folders would represent to our members. Now, these folders represent, their career ending and a new life starting. So I would counsel a member and I would see this folder come back 5 years later, still in mint condition. And we always joke, the more weathered this folder is, the closer you are to retirement. So since this year, the strategic plan was really the member's journey. We wanted to go ahead and really customize the members we serve. So I present to you Green, our deputy sheriffs.
Hello, Zoom.
Beautiful.
Oh, green.
And
Okay,
Victor is
that's
going to describe a little bit about the inside of the real estate on that. Red. Can we guess? Fire. Fire engine red. Right. And blue, let's not forget our general members. It's a little different take on the baby blue that we have currently.
supposed to be purple.
It's supposed to be. Yeah. I'm Mr. Santos, Mr. Santos. Okay, so with that said, we also wanted to marry some technology and take advantage of some of the real estate inside of the folder. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Mr. Tafoya, who's going to go ahead and explain that we took it one step further.
Thank you, Vanessa. So what do we have here? A folder, correct? Nothing special about it, but when you open it, it's the contents that are in the folder. So we really didn't reinvent the wheel. We just improved it. What we did is if you go ahead and open your folders, you'll notice that all the contact information, and if everybody can hold up their deputy folders or forest green folders, all the contact information that pertains to LACERA is still there. Our 800 number, our operating hours, how they can visit us, how they can book appointments virtually or in office, or if they want to email us. You know, if they have general questions, our general welcome at LACERA email is printed on there. And more importantly, our My LACERA account verbiage is in there. So that will kind of give them reference to their My LACERA portal if they do not have one. Okay. And for those that want to still mail documents in, our PO box address is still there. But more importantly, other phone numbers that we wanted to include were Empower's number. We work with them very closely. So we wanted to, again, provide their phone numbers that would be convenient for the member to contact them. And also specifically for deputies, ALADs. So we included that phone number. Okay, so if you notice the QR codes to the right of the contact information. So has anybody scanned the QR codes yet?
Yes.
Yeah, I see some smiley faces.
Okay, so you, okay, great. So you noticed the pictures that are uploaded. So what better way to give that personal touch to our members than introducing our board members, right? Again, it's at their fingertips. They can scan it and they will know who our sitting board members are. Okay. Now, we also have the business card. So if you can please take the business card out and flip it around. So there's another QR code there. So this QR code is a little different. Okay. And again, going back to a folder, right? What can you do with this folder other than carry contents? Now, what you can do with this folder is you can actually access documents that would allow you to initiate the retirement process directly from this QR code. And the unique thing about this is as information is improved or updated, again, it will be updated on our end. And again, the member will just have to scan the QR code and the updated information will be provided to the member. But who would have thought, right? That now you can initiate your retirement from a folder.
And we will be adding the information for POPA as well.
SCAU.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
Yes, these are preliminary folders that, again, we're still getting input on, but we wanted to provide the basic information that most members ask about. Being a counselor downstairs, on a daily basis, always ask, can I get information on the local 1014 from our firefighters, right? So what better way than to provide them the phone numbers directly on the folder so that way they can contact them, get information regarding their retiree healthcare plans. And that's one other thing that I did forget to mention. If you look at the emails, we also included our retiree healthcare email. So if members have questions directed towards our retiree healthcare division, they can email them directly as well. Okay.
So this is just a little bit that we wanted to share with you. We have a lot of ideas and, you know, we're very innovative. We want to go forward and keep coming with you with these wonderful tidbits of what we're improving downstairs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? If I can just go, Ms. Gray, you are up first. Thank you.
Thank you for these folders. I still have my baby blue one. Is this one smaller than the baby blue one?
No.
Okay, because my baby blue one is stuffed with communications from Mr. Tafoya, from you that just help us plan. And I think that for me, I didn't start looking at all of this until a couple of years ago. But I know that I have encouraged our members to go to my LACERA. It's like, I always tell them, it's like a lookbook, like the old Sears catalog, that you could see, hey, if I buy this, what will I get? You know, and it's really great. And now I'm glad to see that our members have something else to take away, you know, especially if they come and visit us at a time when they're mid-career. it gives them something to look at. And I think also you might want to consider this. It takes away from burnout because you have a goal in mind. So it's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frank.
Thank you very much. JJ.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just two more comments. One was the colors of these folders. I'm told our communications actually went out and matched the actual colors. So that's the actual color code used by the Sheriff's Department and the color code used by the Fire Department. Yeah, these represent a new approach also that we're taking to retirement counseling. And there's actually a team working on revising how we do our retirement counseling process to incorporate LACERA as part of the process from day one. So they're right now, they've gone through and they've had several meetings and they've gotten a whole new approach to how that they will counsel members in the future, which will bring forward later. But the whole idea is to, start making a true omni-channel multimedia approach to counseling people. So that even when we're having conversations one-on-one, everything that we talk about will also be represented. It is also represented under the retirement planning section of LACERA.com. And they'll be able to reference so that when people walk away, they'll know where to go, back to reference what they talked about. So it's we'll have an outline of what that looks like presented in a couple of months, but we're pretty close to getting it done. And then all of our specialists, all the way from the call center, all the way through member service center and outreach, will be trained on that new process. And that'll be the process we expect them to follow going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Can I make a quick comment or question? Sorry about that.
Absolutely, please.
I just want to ask, and I would defer to the members of the respective unions. Generally speaking, when I refer to a union, IBW Local 11, I'm noticing the fire just says Local 1014. There's multiple Local 11s for my union, so there's confusion sometimes. I don't know how many 1014 locals there are, but I just wanted to point out, maybe you want to include the name of the union, but defer to you and the members of the union.
I would agree, maybe put in for like, ALADS, put the full title, then ALADS, and then the number, or, LA County Firefighters Local 1014.
Will do.
Great. And then my other question is just my union organizer hat. Do we usually print union, or is these just samples? I don't see a union bug.
No, these are just samples.
Got it.
Yes. Okay. Again, if you notice, the QR codes are stickers.
Yeah.
Once we finalize them, they will be printed on the folders.
Okay.
Same concept with the business cards. We will be having business cards with the QR codes printed on the business cards once we finalize everything.
And then my last comment or suggestion would be, once the social media accounts are up, perfect addition, right?
Yep. Yeah, maybe we can get it on TikTok.
Yeah, well, I'll leave that up to Mr. Santos. I won't be on TikTok, but thank you for your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Anyone else?
My suggestion again for SCAU for purple,
Oh, yeah. Yes.
We got it.
Wait, Mr.
50,000 people.
I love the QR code links, but there's a lot of stuff. To the point we're making here. I mean, there you could QR it to the union website, the health, each individual Cigna, Kaiser. I mean, I don't know if there's room for that, or maybe an addendum or a pamphlet that would have all that stuff where someone could smartphone that and then start.
Mr. Green, that's why we started with stamps, because stamps, you could stamp anything with the QR code. So with our material, we're able to put the pertinent QR code that would be useful. Like, so if you have, like, say, for example, a healthcare guide, we would put the QR code that would link you directly to the information you would want to know about healthcare.
Gotcha. So if it would be tailored to the employee. So if the employees retiring with Cigna, for example, you would include that.
Exactly.
Oh,
This is only the beginning. Only the beginning.
Yeah.
We've only just begun.
My other question, just my thinking head on here. Have you asked the unions if that's the phone number they want listed?
We did speak with, yes, we
Right.
did. That was Victor's role.
Excellent. All right. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We are on to item D. Again, JJ, new phishing attack targeting LACERA members.
Yeah, so this month or last month, we started getting reports from members that they had been contacted by individuals either representing that they were a LACERA staff member or implying that they worked with LACERA. There's a couple of different variations that are going on out there. In the example case that we built around our phishing warning email that we sent out, it was a member contacted by an individual who represented themselves as a LACERA retirement specialist. And of course, we call ourselves LACERA retirement benefit specialist. Very small difference. And the individual that was contacted by this person fell for it, the whole thing. Thought that they were talking to somebody from LACERA and set up a video conference call with this individual. And I think more than one video conference call actually. And through those video conference calls, gave away the store. And what I mean by the store, they gave them all their personal information. And at that point, something triggered with the individual, with the member, and they called us and told us about it. And then we found that there were other members that were doing this. And so we launched an investigation, identified as many of the members as we could. We contacted the individuals that were doing this, sent cease and desist letters to them, telling them you cannot do this. And that process is still ongoing. I'm not going to get into that today in open session. We worked to send out a phishing warning email to our membership. And interestingly enough, we had just sent one about a month or so before. And so obviously this is something that we'll be doing on a regular basis, to keep reminding people to be careful about what they do. The phishing email that we sent out, and we posted a news story online to let members know about this and put a yellow banner on the homepage to make sure that they read it. Also tells them, you're only going to get contact from LACERA by these certain emails. Otherwise, we don't generally call members. If we do, and if you ever have a doubt, call us and see if it's us that's talking to you. So there's a whole education component that goes on here. We have worked with, or continue to work with, the county to try and get the county to send out a phishing, the same type of phishing warning that we sent out, because we only have the ability to send out those warnings to email addresses that we have on file. And that's the most efficient and quickest way to get out to people. Of course, we'll be including articles in the newsletters going forward, and we'll consider some other avenues to communicate with members. We've also opened up a report with the Sheriff's Department and the FBI, and we're working closely with the Sheriff's Department on this. We advised those individuals that were victimized to file police reports with their local department if they've divulged anything. Not all of them divulged information. Some people realized what was going on and didn't, continue to interact with these individuals. But we're, and finally, we contacted our business partners. I reached out to Empower, let them know what was going on. And then we reached out to CalPERS, let them know what was going on. And we'll continue reaching out to others to let people know what's going on. This is a new type of, it's not, I should say it's not a new type of scam. When we did our research on it, we actually found out that there's been other reports of this type of thing. Particularly, it's usually a company that represents itself as that company and kind of implies or represents that they're working with LACERA. In one particular instance here, it was an individual directly doing it. It's worrisome. We continue to get other types of phishing exercises happening. We recently got one, text phishing targeting LACERA staff members. And in that particular one, somebody was claiming to be the boss and asking staff to do something. And of course, staff realized right away that this isn't this isn't acceptable. So I just wanted to make you aware of this. We'll provide a more in-depth report as we go through and finish our investigation and finish interacting with these individuals. Any questions?
I have Mr. Sanchez in the queue.
No, that's all.
Okay, then I have Mr. Knox.
Thank you, JJ. So, Mr. Popovich, in terms of the second page, it says that we determine the member should be provided identity theft protection. What is the duration of that?
It's an offer for 1 year identity theft protection.
Okay.
So we offered it to the one that divulged everything.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a very caring and responsible response by us. I would just caution that we typically do that in the instance where we've accidentally released PII. Again, I'm not saying that's the wrong decision. I think it's absolutely appropriate. Just we ought to be mindful that if this were bigger and we've established a practice of doing that proactively, even though it wasn't the fault of LACERA, that could get expensive, but certainly appropriate. And I appreciate LACERA's efforts on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Thank you for that update.
Thank you.
Now we're on to item E, a privacy incident with personally identifiable information. Cassandra, come on up.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Providing you.
Good evening.
Alert, I just wanted to provide you a report on alert incident that we had resulting from my staff uploading age 65 notification to members. We do that on a monthly basis. However, once that document is uploaded, at the time, staff could only see the front page where they see the member's name and address and everything without seeing the additional pages that are on there. Once I heard about this incident, I immediately contacted Kathy Delano to find out if it was possible for us to expand staff's ability to see the multiple documents just to verify each page. Systems is already working on that for us. That is possible. That is scheduled to be released at the end of June this month. So going forward, that should alleviate staff inadvertently attaching multiple member documents as one document. And with that, I'll take any additional questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Well, I'd just like to make a statement. I was looking at what happened. Obviously, it's not something that we want to happen, but I think that even though we have precautions and all of that, it's just a mistake. I've seen it happen on other things where I would get somebody's tax statement that belongs to someone else. I mean, not to say that that happens to you. But I mean, I've gotten, the wrong information. In fact, it's happened at Cedars where I got someone else's information. It just happens, but I'm glad that we are more vigilant to try to protect us from that happening. But it's almost like human error.
Yeah.
And but I'm glad that we are aware of it and trying to do something for it and doing something for our members.
Yeah. In addition, I also did remind staff to use caution and, make sure that they're only attaching that member's documents because we need to protect our members' information. So it's in process.
Thank you. I have JJ.
So I just also want to add, one of the things that we're working on and with our HC is working on as well is automating a lot of things. So these particular letters are generated off of Word and probably Excel templates, I imagine. And I think we talked about, correct me if I'm wrong, putting these in J letters.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is one example that we're incorporating it into the automated letters that staff can just click on it in our pension system, and it would automatically send out the letters, which would eliminate the need to upload letters.
And also prevent the possibility of having, multiple letters that are generated all at one time from a big list. So we're constantly looking for every opportunity we can to provide either automation warnings or reminder assistance or anything to help staff help themselves and help us protect our members' personal information. So just wanted to add that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Cassandra. We are done with that. We're on to item 7, items for staff review.
I have nothing.
Items for future agendas. Anybody? Good of the order. We had a rather robust good of the order. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add? Mr. Knox?
Yeah, just quickly, I was going to share, and I can follow up later just with more details, my experience with the virtual counseling session. You have to schedule these a couple months in advance. I didn't get a confirmation email when I booked it, but I copied and pasted the confirmation into my calendar. Didn't get any notification that morning of my appointment. And I looked at the website and it says about an hour before you should get an email with a link. And I thought, okay, great. It was about 15 minutes before I called the call center, very helpful, and said, yeah, sometimes those come between 15 minutes before, but they can even come like 15 minutes after the scheduled time. And I thought, okay, well, the website says an hour, just you might want to tidy that up. But I got a phone call right away, as Percy, as I mentioned, very helpfully said, hey, I'm going to send you the link right now. I don't know if that was because he recognized me as a trustee. I didn't identify myself as one. But the other thing that's interesting is that, we just talked about the privacy issue. My LACERA does not reflect the fact that I had an appointment booked. There's nowhere in there, even though there's a little message icon, there's no message that says, hey, Keith, you booked an appointment for such and such a date, heads up, and nothing that populated that day saying, don't forget, you're going to get a link soon. So there's no ability outside of me saving my screen confirmation from 2 months ago that is that record. So I don't know if my LACERA, if we can incorporate that. That seems like a pretty fair gap.
If I may?
Yeah, no.
Sure. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much. Although I would just put out a general caution. This is not an agendized item. So I know this is of interest to everybody, but for this, please. I'll just say that there is a confirmation email that you should have gotten. So we'll look into that. And I'll look into why you didn't get the email that day.
And there's
great
also
idea
just-
with my LACERA too.
Just quickly, there's like a box at the end you check, like I accept to receive SMS, text, or emails. I don't know if I clicked that, but it seems like I don't know that we need that. I mean,
you should always get the email reminder.
Yeah.
The
It's just
SMS
odd.
is something you have to opt into because that's just the way the SMS world works. The text messaging, for anybody who doesn't know what SMS is.
because during my appointment, he said, oh, we tweaked one thing, and I got a text message right away saying, hey, LACERA just changed something. So I thought, great. So that works. It's just odd that for some of the mechanical stuff that should be pretty basic. So that was it. I just wanted to share that. So staff, and a lot of us get calls from our members and employees that are like, hey, I had an issue. So I just wanted to share some awareness too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. It's great.
I only want to just say thank you, JJ, because I think I had a little issue. I may have complained or something, or I didn't see something on my LACERA. And all I have to say is, and I hope they didn't do it just because I'm a trustee. I don't think that's the case, but I did get a really nice letter from staff stating, hey, this is the issue you questioned. This is what we did. If you need any other help. But I mean, it was just a very nice letter that came from staff. And I appreciated that. And if I appreciated it, I think all our members would. And I'm sure that that's something that you do after a contact with a member. I think it's just a great idea.
Yeah, a lot of times it does result in a letter out. I think if it's the issue I'm thinking of, we actually have built a whole new process or building a whole new process about that issue that sends out confirmation of something. So yeah, I'm not going to get into it, but yeah, but we try to do that. We're also looking at doing emails, confirmations and things like that. Part of that, what I referred to earlier when we were talking about the new way we're counseling members is, following up at the end of that counseling session with an email with some reminders of what we talked about, or
That's great.
Always looking at stuff like that. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. I will be happy to entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Without objection, we are adjourned.
Recording stopped.